Thank you all for joining us once again. And today we have the incredible,
Wow.
please mute
How you doing?
everyone. When you come in, please mute, right? So let's not disrupt the flow. Today we have the incredible, I think I pinned myself. So sorry. Hold on, I'm about to just pin Ellie so that we can all see her beauty. She's positively glowing. Hi, Ellie. So
Hello.
today we have the awesome Ellie King here with us. She's a respected technology leadership and inclusion specialist, and also the co-founder of Equal IT. I know when I first saw it, I was like, Equal It, but correct me, right? Is Equal IT, an
Equality.
organization that is committed to building diverse and equitable and psychologically safe workspaces within the tech ecosystem. She has an extensive experience with guiding companies on what inclusive hiring will look like, and also what, DI strategy and leadership culture will look like. Ellie brings deep industry insight into what makes candidates stand out in a competitive tech environment. She's a speaker and a mentor and a host of Equal Inspired podcast, which you can all check out during your time. Ellie amplifies the voices of women and underrepresented professionals in the tech ecosystem, making her a powerful advocate for representation and equitable access. So everybody, please put up your emojis up on the screen. We are honored to have Ellie up in the room with us to share her expert knowledge on what interview preparedness should look like. Again, for the Wenties here that went through the Discover cohort, you know you had your LinkedIn and resume optimization sessions. You've had sessions that are preparing you for now to know what would you say during your interview that would get you that job? How would you land the job? And that's why we have Eddie here. So thank you, Eddie, once again for coming in the room, and the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much for such a kind introduction. I'm very happy to be here with you all today. So thank you for giving me your time too. And I just want to start by saying we can make this as interactive as possible. So no question is a silly question in this space. Anything that you would like to address, any of your own personal experiences, please feel free to put that all in because, we really do learn by others. And I think it's great to just be able to be ourselves and speak openly about the challenges and about how we're feeling when it comes to interviews. For anybody who does feel comfortable, if I was to say interview, going into an interview right now, what's the first word that might come to your mind? And if you feel comfortable, feel free to put it in the chat. And hopefully, come the end of this session, we can reframe that a little bit more and we can all work together as a team. So, yeah, do feel free to put words in the chat. But let's be honest, right? Interviews, they can be quite nerve-wracking. They can be completely overwhelming. I know even for me, but now is the time to really be able to shift that fear into excitement and to really feel empowered to go into an interview and to really nail it because you know yourself, you know what you bring to the table, you know your strengths. So, in this talk, we're going to embark on a journey of self reflection. We're going to explore different strategies for overcoming the nerves for interviews too, and really be able to just equip ourselves with actionable advice on how to effectively prepare. So I just want to reinforce that we are in this together. Anxiety, absolutely, Anita. This is so normal and so natural. And we will dive into that in a moment, but it's very normal because you care about these things, right? You want to do a good job. You want to showcase what you're available to do. If you're also hearing a noise in the background, I'm working from home right now, so that might be my dog trying to come in and get involved because she loves interviewing and we do so much workshops together. So just bear with us if you do hear her. But upon Anita's fantastic introduction, I won't share much more, just a little bit about myself. I've been doing technical recruiting for like 14 years now, and we co-founded Equal IT in 2021. And it was really built off this foundations of my own personal experiences and challenges of being in what is still kind of seemed to be a male-dominated industry. So really wanting to empower others, help others to have the resources to thrive and to really bring your best self. So, has anybody here heard of Simon Sinek? Or there's a TED talk that is quite popular. It's called Start with Why. Or there's a book called Know Your Why, Simon Sinek. And if you haven't checked that out already, I really encourage you to do so. Because before we even think about going into an interview, we need to really take the time to be strategic in terms of the preparation that we do. And this exercise, this is going to be so valuable for you to do continually in your career, maybe every 3 months, every 6 months, check in with yourself, do this exercise, ask yourself these questions. And not only is it going to be great for interview preparation, but it also just helps you to enhance even further your LinkedIn, your CV. I know you have already done some epic workshops on that, but hopefully, this might also give you another perspective too. And what I come to find is it's just all a big circle, really. All of the groundwork you do to work on your CV, the reflection, helps with your LinkedIn, but most importantly, it helps with your flow when it comes to interviewing. And flow is the most important thing. I also just want to say that this whole presentation, again, at any point, if you've got questions, fire them in the chat and Anita's going to share them with me. But this whole presentation has been created off the back of current real-time feedback we receive from the hiring managers that we work with on a daily basis. So we're speaking with hiring managers every day. They're telling us the things that help people to stand out, the things that they look for. So this presentation is constantly updated and refreshed, so it's very relevant to right now. But this exercise, like I say, I recommend doing it to really help you reflect, to gain clarity. I recommend, if you are able to, having a notebook, putting pen to paper. There's just something a little bit more confirming about doing that because we're in such a digital world right now and we're always at a screen, right? So take this time, get a nice drink, one of your favorite drinks, and just feel comfortable to do this. I have a peppermint tea with me right now. And full disclosure, I'm a huge Disney nerd, and this is, you might recognize it, a Scream cup from Monsters Inc. So we're not going to do this exercise right now, but I want you to take notes, so you can do this in your own time, like I say. So first and foremost, I want you to really take the time to reflect on your strengths. And when I say that, that is the human skills, the strengths you bring as a human being that then go on to add value into organizations. Also, your strengths as well from a technical perspective, the things you've been learning, where you feel you thrive the most, where you feel you will add the most value. But thinking about it through two lenses, more practical, technical, and the other more human. Because in what is quite a crowded market, of course, having the capabilities, the technical skills is important. But actually, especially as you're earlier on in your career too, the human skills that you bring are really going to be the things that help you stand out for the right reasons. So begin to think about your strengths. And when you've started to build up a little bit of a list, what I want you to do is go one step further. So, for example, you have your strength written down. I want you to write down a time that you have showcased that strength. And if you haven't had industry experience, it doesn't have to be relatable to a working environment. Think about things that are transferable. Think about throughout this cohort how you have portrayed your strength, maybe to be adaptable and a fast learner. How can you showcase that in something that's quite tangible and quantifiable? Because going into an interview, if you don't have the industry experience, that doesn't mean you can't be hired for the role. And it's all in the delivery, it's all in how you story tell. Because what's going to be so much more powerful is instead of you saying in an interview, oh, my strengths are that I'm a team player and I'm adaptable, you can enhance that and you could say, look, I totally recognize I haven't worked in industry. However, I'm super adaptable. And actually, throughout this cohort, these are the key things that I did and drove for myself to then turn around my learning within 4 weeks. And now, with the skill set I have, this is the exact things I know I can add value to your team. So you're answering it in so much more of a powerful, storytelling, impactful way. You're adding depth. You're going beyond the buzzword, right? So you have those stories of the things that you've done. Now, I want you to also then think, what direct value and impact did that have on friends, on maybe the cohort, on potentially family? You could use a story or an example where you've showcased your strength through family life if you don't have the industry work experience right now. All these things make a big difference. And actually, there's a lot to be said about being human in these interviews. Like, I think there's a fine line, right, between feeling like you need to be super professional to the point you almost become a little bit robotic and transactional. So don't be afraid to be human and to share things that are a little bit closer to your heart. So next is growth. So you thought about your strengths, and when I say growth, this is really around areas to improve. So begin to think about, what do you want to learn and achieve moving forwards? Dig deeper into understanding the why behind that. So, why do you actually want to learn this? If you've got a certain certification or framework, why do you want to learn that? How is it going to add value to a business moving forwards? How's it going to benefit your career as a whole as well? So you're kind of really building and creating this learning plan for yourself too. How will that add value to the company that you're going to interview at by having that learning, that certification, that skill, whatever it may be? Or it might be something that's, human. I want to learn how to be more empathetic, maybe, or embrace more emotional intelligence. And I'm going to do that through courses and whatever that may be, right? And then I want you to actually think, okay, you've got these things written down that you want to learn. Are you already being proactive in learning them? If you are, I want you to write down exactly what you've been doing. It doesn't matter even if you've just read one article, but write it down. Write down that exact process of learning that you've already done. And if you haven't done that, I also want you to think about, why is that? What's stopping you? What's holding you back? Is it confidence? Is it time? Is it resources? What is that? And how might you be able to begin to navigate through that? Because again, in an interview, they may ask you if you've worked with a certain tooling, right? And you may not have worked with it again in practice. So there's a lot of power, instead of saying, no, I haven't worked with it, which you should absolutely be truthful and honest and own in an interview if you haven't. But saying that, or saying, do you know what? I haven't worked with it in production. However, I just did a Coursera certification over the past 4 weeks within it. And this is the things that I've learned. And actually, if I was to implement it into production, this is my approach. I know that actually there's a few different ways. And if you go down this route, it could potentially have a negative impact because of this. Share your learnings, share the things that you've picked up on, because again, it's storytelling, and hiring managers now more than ever are looking for people who are honest, but who are reflective and who are very self-aware and who can share lessons learned. So I can't stress that enough to you. If you haven't worked with something, don't worry. Don't let that defeat you and make you think internally that you're not good enough or you're not going to be right or they can't hire you. You, in an interview, have every ability to actually control the outcome, and it's through your delivery and how you storytell. So you've begun to think about your areas of growth. Now, I want you to think about your core values. When I say that, what's your why in the sense of like the things you care most about in a business that you'd be looking for? What are the core values here? What kind of environment do you need them to have? What's important to you in terms of like the kind of frameworks that they have in place? And why is this important? Well, the more you know what you need from an environment, the better questions you're going to go on to ask in an interview. And you've got to remember, right, this is as much you interviewing them as it is them interviewing you. So the more in line you can be with your values, you can ask very smart questions. So one thing a tip I always like to share is think about how you can plant the seed of one of your core values, but by asking them a question. So the hiring manager is understanding more about who you are, but you're following up with a question. So, for example, right, I really value collaboration and inclusion and transparency. These are the core values that I look for in an organization. What kind of initiatives are you driving to enhance inclusion in the business? Or how do you ensure collaboration? Do you do hackathons or things like that, right? Or another question, a core value of mine is personal development. I love to learn. I invest so much of my time. Like I said earlier, I've done a Coursera course, but I'm just curious how you advocate learning internally. Again, you're reminding them who you are and what you stand for and why they need to have you in their team, but you're following up with a smart question, a relatable question. So this is really important, the values. Sometimes I think, and I get it, right? We just want a job. We just want to land a job because it's exhausting making applications, interviews, rejections. It's not nice. But don't just take something because it's the first thing that you get. Like, really do make sure that it aligns with your values because what's more valuable for an organization who's hiring is seeing someone who's been working in maybe two companies over the course of 4 years, as opposed to maybe they've worked at four companies over the course of a year and a half because you just weren't making sure that it was right for you as well. And look, granted, layoffs happen, things happen that are out of your control when I say being at four companies in that amount of time. So it's all in the story, but what I'm getting at here is you don't want the reason to be that it wasn't a good match for you. You wasn't happy because of certain things. When you could have avoided that through asking certain questions in interviews just to gauge more of a feeling. Fulfillment is also really important, remembering your why. And just on that point of resilience, your why is going to be that guiding light when sometimes it does get a little bit dark. And it does, it's tough. It's tough to be consistent. It's tough to be resilient sometimes. So remembering your why, let your why be your guiding force. For example, for me, my why is very much tied to I co-founded Equal IT back in 2021 because I lost a few people very close to me, very dear to my heart. And my why that continues to drive me when it does get tough and challenging is that I want to make these people proud through building and developing something that is actually contributing and making a difference. And that keeps me going. So just always reflect on your why. And your why could change every 3 months, every 6 months. And it's personal to you. There's no right or wrong. But also, what that allows you to do when you understand your why, for example, you wanted to start working in tech, who or what inspired you? What do you like the most about it? What do you not like the most about it? Again, it helps with storytelling in an interview because you're really able to give context on the journey that you've been on and what got you to where you are. Because there's often that question, right? So tell me about yourself. And a lot of people will start by saying, well, my name, for example, my name is Ellie King. I'm 31 years old. I'm from the UK and this is what I do. You want to answer it very differently. You could even tell me something about yourself. Well, let me tell you about my why. This is why I chose this career path and why I love doing what I do. And this is how that That is going to add value to your organization through this, through this, through this. Oh, and I saw on your website that you really value this kind of collaborative nature. So again, it's how you answer questions. This exercise is just everything, basically, and when you've got it in the notebook, you're documenting it, you're keeping it safe. So you can go back to it, you can refresh on it, you can review on it as you have new interviews. But also, it's really nice because when you keep these journals as such, if you 6 months later look at them, it's really nice to see how far you've come as well and how you've grown and adapted. And again, that's a great resource for your personal development and growth. So, a lot of different layers here, and it's not easy, right? It's really not easy. We can be our own worst critics. I know I am. I know the inner imposter loves to creep up on the shoulder every Monday morning, and I'm like, please just back off, okay? Back off. But it's natural and it's normal. And we can also be far too humble, right? We don't give ourselves the credit that we deserve. So, all of these different things, I also encourage you to ask. Ask your friends, ask your family, ask your colleagues. What do they feel your strengths are? Get them to share a story, a time that you've showcased it. What are some areas that they feel maybe you could improve on and why? Um, and then you can use that in an interview as well. I know I keep going on about this whole idea of storytelling, but this is absolutely vital. Okay. So, if a hiring manager was to say to you, so tell me about your strengths, you could say, okay, well, these are my strengths. This is times that I've showcased that. But actually, it's interesting you ask me this because just last week, I had a chat with two people that I've worked very closely with in the past. They actually shared that one of my strengths was this, and this is the story that they shared to kind of showcase this. Another shared this strength. So you can kind of see there's a theme here around where my strengths lead me to and how I can add value to an organization, right? So sometimes you're actually letting the people around you do the hard work for you. So this is really vital. I can't stress it enough, this exercise and completing it when you can. So I also want to reinforce this. I know we've touched on it a little bit just in the previous slide. Um, and we've said, anxiety comes into mind when you think about an interview. But I want to really reinforce that for many, it's the unknown, right? It's the unknown that makes us feel scared a little bit about interviews and what we're going into and what are they going to ask us. And we can really get in our own heads. Um, but I want to just share this with you because we asked 10 of the hiring managers that we work with to tell us what do they want to hear more about in interviews. So, first of all, they want to hear more about the times you have failed, when you have got things wrong. They want to hear about times you've made difficult trade-offs, the times you were wrong, the times you gave constructive feedback, had to make a tough decision under pressure, had to adapt quickly to unexpected changes, right? They want to hear these things. And this just reinforces and why I want to share this with you. It really does reinforce this idea of we don't have to be perfect, right? We have to think we're in an interview, that we have all the answers, we get everything right all of the time. We never get things wrong. Well, I want to challenge that and actually say the more you can own the things that you have done and you haven't done, what you've learned from them. Again, it's all in the storytelling and the delivery of these things. But people gain a lot of respect for you. And resilience in this day and age is a huge green flag. You know, failure is always an opportunity to grow, and failure is always our biggest teacher. Don't fear failure, although it's painful and it's uncomfortable and it's not nice, you will always learn something from it. So the more you can talk about that, own what you do know, own what you don't know, be honest, but share the lessons that you've had along the way. This is going to help you stand out for all the right reasons too, because there are people out there who won't talk about any of this, and they think, well, no, this project was great and I done this and drove that, and there was no problems, no issues. And sometimes it makes hiring managers question, is that real? Because you gotta get things wrong to learn and to grow, like I say. So I always like to add this in just to really reinforce that to you all, okay? Because I know how easy it is to really think that we have to be this idea of perfect all the time. And that is absolutely not the case. Okay, so interviews, they're much like public speaking. Does anybody here, like, are you into acting, the theatre? Have you done public talking at all? Singing, anything like that? If you are, throw it in the chat because I want to know, I want to hear. Um, but interviewing is very similar to these things like stepping on a stage, public speaking, right? The stage is the people who are interviewing you, and storytelling, again, in public speaking is so essential. And it's the exact same in interviewing. Okay, storytelling. Again, I know I keep saying it, but you're going to hear it a lot throughout this presentation, storytelling. So I actually had a conversation with multiple friends who are public speakers, women in tech, moderators globally, big advocates of inclusion, just very good at what they do. And there was a common theme. When you're feeling nervous, your heart races, you visualize the future, your hands get a little bit clammy, right? There's that Eminem 8 Mile song. Arms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, and that's very much the case when those nerves come in. But when you feel excited, your heart races, you visualize the future, your hands get clammy. The feelings you experience in anxiety and excitement are physiologically the same. Studies show the difference is the narrative that you tell yourself. So, I want to try and encourage something called cognitive reappraisal. Now, this is going to be a game changer. What is this? It's changing how you think about a situation to alter its emotional impact. So you've got to think, my anxiety feelings, my excitement feelings are exactly the same. And I've been there, right? So speaking really openly with you all, I had a talk that I was doing on stage, not an interview, but again, it's a similar concept, very overwhelming and quite scary. And I genuinely beforehand felt like I was having a panic attack. I couldn't really breathe. I couldn't catch my breath. I couldn't calm my nervous system because of the anxiety that I was telling myself. I was like, what if I get things wrong? I was thinking about it as in all of the worst things that could happen. But what I wasn't also realizing that it was also adrenaline because I was excited and I cared and I wanted to help others and I wanted to share some tips on the thing that I was talking about. But I was so caught up in this everything that's going to go wrong and what if I mess my words? What if I don't remember? What if I get asked a question and don't answer it correctly that it completely consumed me. I managed to pull myself together a little bit and the talk went okay. But if I'd have changed that mindset from the get-go, I'm very confident I wouldn't have felt it so intensively. So next time your nerves creep in, and this again can be for anything, but before an interview, try flipping the script. Reframe your anxiety as excitement. Remind yourself why this moment is an opportunity. Say it out loud before you go into an interview, for example. If there's a toilet, look in the mirror. This is exciting. This is an opportunity. No matter what happens, even if it's not the outcome I want, which is a job, no matter what happens, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn more about my interview style. I'm going to learn more about how to how I answer things. I'm going to learn more about the weaker areas that I might have. So no matter what happens, I'm going to learn. This is an opportunity. You keep telling yourself that, and it really does begin to shift your way of thinking. So, just on that as well, in terms of overcoming the nerves, I want to share a statistic that 93% of people in a study, they shared that they have experienced anxiety related to their interview. So again, it's so normal. It's so natural. What I wanted to do to kind of tie this into the theme of public speaking as well is I had a chat with some of my friends who speak publicly, and I asked them, what are some of the core things that you do to overcome your nerves, stepping into your stage? What does that look like? And I found it quite interesting because actually doing these same things can really help transform how you go into an interview from a mindset perspective. I know this sounds simple. Smile. Give yourself a smile right now. Your brain releases tiny molecules called neuropeptides. And what that does is it helps fight off stress. So even if you have to go into the bathroom before, look in the mirror, look like a literally just stand there smiling as much as you can. Do it. It's going to help you. It's all for your benefit. It does help to change and transform how you begin to feel, and that shift is vital. Self-care is very personal to you. So, if, for example, doing some meditation, visualization helps you to feel calm, to be at peace, great. Maybe for some, that's going for a walk, that's exercising if you're able to. Whatever is personal to you and works for you, try to give yourself that self-care time beforehand as well. Also, calming down a little bit on the caffeine intake beforehand. Of course, everyone reacts very differently to caffeine. I know for me, it can send me into oblivion. I get the shakes, the jitters, the heart palpitations. Yeah, it's crazy. But it might not help, right? If you are going to get that adrenaline feeling going into an interview and you've had like 3 cups of coffee, it might enhance it. It might send you into a bit of a state of panic. So just try and have a little bit less beforehand. Eat a little bit lighter as well. Power pose is a big one. That was something that was said so many times with the people that I spoke with on this. You know, whatever works for you again, but stand up, really make yourself big, put your hands on your hips, make your chest proud, look up, let that air flow into your body. Get yourself in the power pose. Tell yourself that you can do this, you will do this. Act as if. And your self reflection exercise, this is going to help so much with overcoming those nerves because you know you've done the groundwork. You've done the work to remember who you are, why you do this, why you kick ass, and why you're going to add value to a team. The more you do that self reflection, the deeper you get, the better that is going to help you in terms of interviewing. Also, this could be quite helpful because one thing you don't want to do is have things quite scripted. That's for sure. You want to have a baseline and an understanding of how you might answer certain questions. So, one lady, wonderful lady, she's a CTO at a big tech company in Sweden. She actually just memorizes the first 3 sentences or first 3 lines of how she might go about saying something in her talk or speaking about something. So if you think about some of the most recurring questions that you might get asked in interviews, tell me about yourself, tell me about your strengths. Maybe if it's more helpful for you, think about the first 3 sentences of how you would answer that, and then of course you can flow into the rest. And then finally, this really helps me balancing your nervous system, doing some breath work. So before you enter the room, bring your breathing under control. And you really want to take control of your stress levels. And you do that with the deep, slow, and controlled nasal breathing. It reduces stress. So breathe deep through your nose and then breathe out. Really push that air out. And if you can do that 10 times beforehand, it will help you to relax. I always noticed that sometimes before I had anything big coming up, like a talk or in the past, an interview, I found myself like trying to yawn kind of like going like that, feeling like I needed to yawn to catch my breath. I don't know if anyone else has ever had that, but actually, that is your nervous system trying to just regulate itself. So be kind to yourself, give your body what it needs, nourish your body, take care of yourself before an interview, and don't be so hard on yourself. Like I say, these feelings are very normal and very natural. So, has anybody here seen James Bond movies? Um, yeah, okay, love that. So the No Time to Die. Um, in the film, Naomi takes on Bond's 007 agent number. So I'm now giving you all 007 status too. You need to become top investigators when it comes to researching. Your mission is to prepare, prepare, prepare. And this is through the research that you're going to do before your mission, your interview. Okay. So, again, please, if you feel comfortable, feel free to put in the chat. If you go into interviews right now, what are some of the things that have worked well for you in terms of the research that you did and how it helped you to feel more prepared? If you haven't, if you don't have experience with that, then let me know maybe what you might do. We can learn from others, right? The more we engage, the more we can learn. But this is your mission now, okay? You really have to put this 007 hat on. Research is absolutely key. I cannot stress this enough. Again, you want to say about how we can calm the nerves and the anxiety, the research. You want to be able to go into an interview and ask smart questions because you want to be remembered for the right reasons. And you can do that through the questions that you ask. You guessed it. Ask smart questions, do the research. So, a few things that I want to recommend here. And again, this is from hiring managers where it has, yeah. So I'm just actually, I can see the chat function now, which is great. So thank you so much, Alexandra. So, use a background with the company during the interview. Okay. Okay. That's interesting to know. Um, Thank you so much for sharing as well. So I think that's wonderful. Really, really great. So GitHub is a great, great resource, right? Number one, it's great for yourself. If you haven't been able to work much with production code in a working environment, GitHub is a great tool for you to showcase to employers that you could be industry ready through the things that you create on there. It's a great portfolio. I've seen some people get hired just through a GitHub portfolio, not even having a CV, like an up-to-date CV, because a lot of recruiters spend time on GitHub. So GitHub is great because if you've got an interview coming up with a company, they may have a GitHub page. You may be able to see that they have some projects, some code, and you could maybe beforehand comment on a project, or you could take some notes and bring that to the interview. Oh, hey, I just want to say, I do a little bit of work on GitHub. I saw that you created this project and you use these frameworks and technologies. Was you involved with that? And if so, like, what were some of the biggest challenges? How did you overcome those hurdles? Again, it's a smart question because you've essentially told them that you're on GitHub, that you use it, but people aren't asking this. This is really like going that next level with the research. And I know it can be a bit time consuming and a little bit draining and tedious, but I promise you, this is how you're going to stand out for the right reasons. YouTube is another good one. So YouTube could have videos of their products, platforms, new releases. You may see employees that have done talks and presentations. The hiring manager may have done a talk or presentation on the product and the tech ecosystem, the direction that they're taking for the next year. There's a really handy tool on Chrome called Glasp, GLASP, Glasp. What this tool does is it transcribes YouTube videos. So let's say you landed on a video and it was like 30 minutes long. It was quite a long one. You could copy and paste the transcript into ChatGPT and get it to create a summary, the key takeaways, the learnings, And that is your baseline. I do encourage you to, if you can, watch the full video. So if you're going to bring it up and speak to the hiring manager about what you found and ask questions, because they may ask you follow-up questions. And if you haven't fully watched it, you may not know what they're talking about. And again, you want to come across as genuine and genuinely interested. But what I'm getting at is that GLASP is just a good resource to get you started and get to understanding. So asking questions around that, great icebreaker, you know. Also a word cloud. So what I tend to find is with word clouds, if you were to put the job descriptions in a word cloud, that will then kind of show you the most frequently used words. So then like you will have an understanding of, okay, in my interview, if it's a true reflection of yourself, you want to think, how can I showcase these things? How can I showcase that I am these things? How can I ask questions around these things? So the word cloud is huge. Google News is also a great resource because you might see that there has been a recent announcement around funding um, and acquisition, whatever that may be. And again, you can ask questions, good icebreakers, goes to show that you kind of know your market, you're keeping on top of things. For example, oh, I saw that you just recently received Series B in funding from the VC. Actually, I know that they also fund into this company and this company. Do you collaborate much? Is there any cross collaboration here? How are you feeling about the new funding? What's the plan? Where are you hoping to take it? What are your expectations? Right, it's just icebreakers. So really big. Naturally, LinkedIn, socials is very handy. I want to share something with you that someone shared with us in a previous workshop, and it's quite an interesting one. So they was looking on LinkedIn at who they're going to meet, and they saw that somebody, the interviewer, did like a post on a TV series that they've been watching. They kind of combined the post into business and what they'd learned. You know how LinkedIn is, right? This is what I learned from stubbing my toe on a chest of drawers. I know I'm guilty for that. But basically, going into the interview, at the end, they said, "Oh, I've watched the series. I can't remember the series name. I watched that too. I saw your LinkedIn post. What episode are you on right now? Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, I'm up to this as well." And they kind of bonded a little bit on that. And it's just, again, it's a nice way, just although it's not job related, it's a nice way to be a bit more personable without being too far gone because it's something that they've openly posted about and shared, right? I mean, I know we're all 007 agents right now, but we also think there's a fine line where maybe we take it a little bit too far and we find their Facebook and their, you know, their address and everything that they're doing from a personal perspective. So you want to try and keep it professional when you're tailoring it. So I always say a good baseline is just seeing what they're putting out there and then commenting on it, following up on it, right? Or another thing that is quite good is if you are going to have an interview with someone and they've done a post on LinkedIn, it could be, and it's an interesting post, and you've actually learned something from it, you've taken something away from it, or you want to expand on the post, comment on the post beforehand. It's just a good way to warm things up, plant the seed again in terms of your name. And maybe you can bring it up again on the interview, right? So this whole thing is you're being very intentional in terms of making these connections a lot warmer for you instead of cold. There's a few other examples here. I won't read them out, but feel free to screenshot this. Glassdoor is really great because some people give heads up on things that they get asked, the process. You learn more about the company's actual environment as well. People, previous employees review their time working there, right? So you could always use Glassdoor as a good baseline for creating questions and asking questions. Someone that I knew, they were interviewing with a company, and the company actually had quite a lot of negative feedback on Glassdoor, and they wanted to ask them about that. So they, again, it's how you deliver it in a respectful way. Oh, I was doing a little bit more research. I come across the glass door. I did notice that a few people shared this and this, and I just wanted to ask your opinion on that and your thoughts. And they actually left the interview feeling really reassured because it was just a little bit of a rough period where there was some layoffs, but it actually turned out it was 3 years ago. Since then, they've built up a really good and solid onboarding plan, and security is super important to them all. So you can really learn and uncover a lot. So your research is vital. And then what do you prepare, right? How do you prepare? First and foremost, I want to say that um, being able to actually speak about why the company is important too. Again, I know that's hard sometimes when you don't know a lot about a company, but kind of make it your mission to get to know as much as you can about it and think about what are the things that actually stand out? What have caught your attention? And think about how you can make it beyond generic. Oh, I just really like the culture you stand for. No, no, no. I want you to go even deeper. Okay. I want you to answer it and say, oh, for me, a big value of mine is collaboration and knowledge sharing. And I saw that just last week you actually did a hackathon together, and it was at log cabin in the woods. I just landed on your Instagram and come across it, and it looked really interesting to me. And I care about those things a lot. And I just get the feeling that this is the kind of environment where I would thrive because I love learning. I'm a fast learner. I'm adaptable. And this is a time that I've done it. You see how you're answering that. It's just so much more depth. So, hiring managers as well, they love someone who talks about the research that you've done on the company. So own it. Oh, actually, I done a YouTube search. I found this, and own that. Be proud of it because it's you've worked hard to get all of that information. So yes, do we have a question at all?
Wasn't a question. Sorry, I've muted the person.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Okay, so yes, I want to also say that all of this hard work that you're doing, you've of course got it all documented in a book or journal, whatever that may be. I want to say, don't be afraid to bring that to an interview with you. Okay, it's okay to take notes in an interview. Remember that, and it's okay to have notes. I don't want you to fear this, especially if you've taken the time to get some really unique questions specific to the company and the challenges that they're going through. Um, I want you to not fear that. It's not a memory contest, an interview, right? And everyone is different, of course, but to me, how I perceive it is that you've really invested your time in taking your research to the next level. And I think that it's quite flattering and it's a good thing. It's not a memory test, right? So don't be afraid to bring that along and own it. Oh, I have got some questions written down and prepared with me. So if we have enough time at the end, I'd love to present those to you if we don't go through them already through the process. Or do you mind if I take notes? I hope it's not too distracting, but um, I like to have the key points written down so I can go back and reflect on this as well. So just set the expectations from the get-go. Again, be human, be real. There's nothing wrong in that. So these are just some core areas I really recommend that you take the time to prepare on. These questions unique to your research that you've done, super, super important. And then how can we actually answer questions in an effective way, right? In a way that shows depth, shows value, shows impact. Well, the CAR framework is what we're seeing more of to be quite valuable and popular. So, challenge, action, result. So, think of it like a traffic light almost. Red, stop. Okay. Think about what is a challenge that you've worked on. Avoid generic. It could be something that was really difficult. Talk about a role that you had, what made the challenge important, something that maybe was deemed as mission impossible that you had to work on, deploying a major rethink, a first time ever, whatever that challenge was. Speak about that challenge with the hiring manager because they might ask you to talk about a project you're most proud of, right? So this is when the CAR framework comes in really well. Talk about that challenge. Next, we're just starting to warm up now. Warming up. What is the action? The action that you took. This is the chance and this is the time to, like I say, forget being so humble. Own what you've done. Own the things you have driven, the decision that you've made. This is your chance to highlight and showcase you specifically. Showcase your contributions. So, working on that challenge, what were three key things that you specifically did that made the biggest contribution? Why was it difficult? What did you learn? And then go, go, go. This is the key result. This is the most important part of your answer. Numbers are impactful. And if you can quantify your impact in any way, it's going to really help to set you apart. For example, it could be you enhanced cost savings by X amount. You helped with retention in a certain percentage. You increased productivity by a certain percentage. Whatever it may be, the number never has to be 100% correct because you can say in the interview, and I'd say the outcome of that was around this, okay? But the more you can quantify, the more it shows to employers that you understand your work, you understand what you do, and you can speak about the value that you have and bring. So that's really important. Now, I also just want to share a few questions with you, example questions. I appreciate there's quite a lot of words on the page, so just feel free to screenshot these. But again, we're going to make sure that we've got unique questions that are tailored specifically to the research that you're doing. But these have always been some nice questions that we've found hiring managers to actually be grateful to have, and it helps you to get a lot of really good insights into them as well. So asking questions around what do they enjoy the most actually about being in the company? What's a proud moment for them? What don't they like? What's been a big challenge for them? Put them on the interviewing seat as well. Don't shy away from that. Again, it's going to give you an understanding of the onboarding process. So that's super important. Again, there's more questions that you could ask the leader, the hiring manager. How are you as a leader? What's your communication style? Again, this ties into you understanding your values and what you need from a leader, how they can bring the best out of you, because you're getting all the information you need to decide whether or not this is right for you. And then we have what's expected of me in the first week, the first month, 3 months, 6 months. Hiring managers really appreciate this type of way of wording things because you're showcasing progression, timelines, right? It's that kind of growth mindset through asking these questions. Again, the more you're kind of quantifying it a little bit as well. And granted, you might not get as much depth as you would like in terms of the answer because things can change, right? But it's just helps you to know actually as well going into this, what's this actually going to look like for you? What's going to be tricky? What do you need to be prepared for? And actually, when they tell you what you could expect in the first 3 to 6 months, if you've worked on something very similar, that's your time to put that in there as well if you haven't done so already. Oh, it's interesting you say that, especially once we get to the 6 month mark and we're going to be implementing this framework into this project, because actually that's something that I did in my previous project. I drove the whole transition of readapting to this framework, and I actually was responsible for the knowledge sharing in it. So we had like a lunch and learn with my team, and I spent 15 minutes sharing the highlights of this framework, the benefits, where it could go wrong. And since then, I've been driving that to make a change, right? So you're tying it back to your tangible experience, which is super, super important. Now, I also want to kind of encourage you to really go for it with this side of things. And I'd be interested to know in the chat if any of you have ever asked these final questions in an interview. But I want to say, don't be afraid to ask for feedback. You are the architect here. You have the ability to take control of the process and to take control of the feedback. So, for example, don't be afraid to ask them for feedback. Based on our discussion, what value do you feel I could bring to the team? That helps to get a bit of an indication on the gut feeling that they have of you. Are there any gaps in my experience that you're concerned about? Is there anything that I can clarify? Now, there are sometimes, unfortunately, still an element of bias in interviews. What you're doing here in asking this is you're trying to help eradicate that bias because the hiring manager might have made an assumption because you didn't maybe talk about something or have the time to go over it. They may assume that you don't have experience in it or haven't worked with it. So, in asking that, they could say, well, I'm not sure how strong your skills are in this space. And you could say, do you know what? I'm glad I asked that. Let me paint a picture for you of what I've done. So you then know, leaving that interview, you really have done everything you could to try and put the interviewer's mind at ease. And again, it just helps you to take a little bit of control. So, really important to also ask, what does the next steps look like? When can I expect to receive feedback? You're setting yourself up here to be able to follow up. If they say to you, okay, feedback's going to be 1 week, we'll get back to you next Wednesday. Let's say next Wednesday comes, haven't heard anything. We're now on Friday, still nothing. Although I would encourage you to follow up on the Thursday. If they tell you Wednesday and they haven't, follow up on the Thursday. But you can go in without, I know it's uncomfortable sometimes. It can feel really uncomfortable and almost like you're pestering someone. And oh, is this gonna, annoy them? Am I giving off a wrong impression? Am I coming across as desperate? Absolutely not. If someone said to you, we're going to get back to you next Wednesday, and they don't, you can follow up with them and you are well in your rights to be like, oh, hey, hope you're having a great week. Again, thanks so much for your time last week. I really enjoyed the chat and learning about XYZ, all very exciting. I know you said we'd get back on Wednesday, so just following up as I'd love to know what do the next step look like from here? You're friendly, you've reinforced a few things that you learned from the discussion. You're thanking them again for your time. Again, it's all in the delivery. And if you don't hear anything back after that, the week after, follow up again. And if you don't hear anything back after that, honestly speaking, are they even a company that you want to work at? And I know that that's easier said than done as well, because we live in a world, unfortunately, where ghosting happens and it blows my mind, right? But just try and think that they weren't the company for you. Not you weren't you wasn't right for them. They weren't the company for you. Why would you want to work in a company that says one thing, does another, doesn't respect your time, your energy, clearly doesn't have empathy or emotional intelligence to some extent, right? Kind of try your best to take it more in that mindset. Well, that wasn't right for me. That wasn't serving me. So it's not come for me, but something else will. Again, so much easier said than done. I really do recognize and know that. But the more you do that, the more you get in the habit of that, the easier this flow will become. I also just want to say that, practice is super important. So wax on, wax on, wax off, right? The more we do something, the more familiar we become with it. Don't be afraid to try mock interviews with people that you trust and friends. And when I say that, again, it's not scripted, but get somebody to ask you, tell me about your strengths. Do it with them. Get them to actually give you some genuine feedback, constructed feedback that you can learn from. And don't take it personal. Look at it as an opportunity for learning and growth. You can use AI for sure, like if you want to get a little bit of feedback, but just remember not to lose that human touch, that human element and your own voice with this. You can voice record your answers. I've seen some people who voice record the strengths, the stories, the examples, and before an interview, they might listen to that going on a walk or whatever they're able to do, whatever their body allows them to do. Again, just a good way to get you in that flow, that habit of practice. Record yourself on camera. And I know this is so uncomfortable sometimes, and listening back to your own voice is like, oh, yeah, it can feel like the worst thing in the world. But if you record yourself on your phone or whatever you record yourself on, you can analyze yourself as well, because tonality, body language, all of these things matter. And you might notice that you're kind of sat there with your arms folded, answering these questions. And I really encourage you to not do that. It really, when you fold your arms and you're kind of like this, it just it does something to the confidence, you know. Again, think power pose. Think how can you sit and kind of really put yourself out there. So practice makes perfect. And again, I just want to say that, first impressions are everything. So if you're going for an on-site meeting, for example, everybody that you meet in that building is important. Look at everybody the same. I had a situation many, many years ago when I worked in a company, and my boss, my manager, he was hosting interviews, and he just like left the building, and somebody was coming in for an interview, and the person coming in for an interview was a little bit like rude, like they didn't hold the door, and then like a bit of a situation happened. Like it was, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a big thing, right? But that first impression with my boss kind of left a bit of a sour taste in their mouth, and then yeah, it wasn't a great experience. So that kind of, seeing that happen firsthand reinforced to me like how the person at the reception desk, right? You treat them with just as much respect as you would the interviewer. Greet them with a smile on your face. Be polite. Ask them questions if you've got the chance, because again, you want to be remembered for the right reason. The hiring manager might come out of the interview to the lobby, and like the person at the front desk might say, "Loved their energy. They were great." And then the hiring manager might be like, "Yeah, you know what? That was a really great interview that I had." And again, these things matter. Okay, first impressions. Be polite, be pleasant. The person holding the door to let you in could be a key decision maker. Pre-plan your logistics as well. So, for example, if you're going to an office, pre-plan how you might get there. What's the route? What's the backup route just in case I have to pre-plan? If you're using technology, if it's online, do you have everything downloaded that you need, or are you doing it 2 minutes before? And oh my God, I need to download an update, and that I'm going to be late for the interview. Prep your tech, prep your journey. Um, Ask questions. Interaction is key. Allow this to be a true reflection of you. Don't speak negatively about your previous employer situation. If it did end on a little bit of sour, bad terms for whatever reason, think on how you can deliver it in an honest yet respectful way. And really and truly, I want to remind you that the flower that blooms in adversity is the most rare and beautiful of all. So, yes, there may be a few interviews that don't go your way. We don't get it right. We don't get the outcome we want, but keep going. Keep going. Look at it all as lessons, as learning. Constantly refine on yourself as well. Readjust, adapt. The more you do that, the more you embrace that, the more you will bloom. Thank you so much, everybody, for your
Wow,
time.
wow, wow, wow. This is so packed. Everybody, if you feel impacted, if you loved it as much as I did, let me see your emojis up in the screen. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much, Ellie. Like, where do I start from? I know we have a couple of people here that came in late, a couple of people that have left. They'll get the recording. Woo! Starting from asking your why, right? That was, I've been in your sessions before, so I get it, but it's never not new to me, how, putting it, having your strengths, your weaknesses, having your whys, your values all planned out. I'm lost for words, but it takes a lot of intentionality, And that's the work that we have to put in, in ourselves as a community. That's why we have you here. It takes a lot of intentionality to get to the goal, and that's where a lot of people lose the mark. You think you can just wing it. You think, you can just put in your CV. There is no follow-up. When you go to the interview, you feel like you can just say anything. No, it takes a lot of intentionality. It takes a lot of structure. And I'm amazed at the time. And I don't even know the lot of experiences that you've had for you to structure this, plan it out and put it out here as a very, detailed deliverable. So thank you so much, Ellie. Again, if we have any questions, if we have any thoughts, if we have any contributions, this is a very open space where you could unmute, you could speak. But I will just, have like a brief rundown of what we've talked about with Ellie here. And Ellie, please feel free to correct me as we round up. We have less than 3 minutes. So Ellie talked about us knowing our whys, knowing our strengths, knowing our values, what we bring to the table. And this doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a professional already in the field. She talked about talking about your learnings from your courses. We have people from the cohort here that are in mentorship, that have just finished their courses. So you can talk about what you learned from there, right? Nkiruka said, please, my network glitch, can you resend the link? Yes, the recording will be sent out. So like I was saying, you don't have to be a full-on professional. Talk about your learnings. And she talked about, also talking about your failures and how to restructure that. Because, we might not have had any win yet, but you learn from your failures, and that is something that you can put out there. She talked about prepping, right, for the interview. You have to research. Like I said, this is not something you would wing. Don't think about winging it. Think about researching the company, and not just researching. Talk about it during the interview. Talk about, I did this research, and, be inquisitive towards them, and they will know that you came prepared as well. Ellie, I'm 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 going to watch the video again myself because I'm just going to put this into my 2026 plans. But thank you
Oh,
so much. I put in the chat box to everyone, please follow Ellie on LinkedIn. Check out her podcast. You could get all these gems for free on her podcast. You go there, you listen, and also support Ellie as well. So hi, Alexandra. I'm just seeing your beautiful face. How are you doing? This is our last session for the community for the year, right? And it's a very exclusive one because it's tailored to the data campus and also, people now discover her code like Ellie and Ange. And I want to say this is not cut across board for just tech professionals. Like Ellie was saying earlier, if you're an actress or a creator. I know we have a creator in the house called Ange. She's very, very good. You can use these tips into feeding into and feed these tips into that line of career as well. So it's not quote unquote just for techies. But our main goal as a community at Mentors has always been to get you from point A to point B and solidify your spot in the tech ecosystem. So thank you so much, Ellie. Again, if we all enjoyed the session, let's give Ellie our best emojis up on the screen. Thank you so much, Ellie. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All
oh,
right,
thank you.
everyone. Let me quickly, if you could just show me your face for a couple of minutes, and then I can take a few pictures with Ellie. Like I said, this is our last session for the year. Hi, everyone. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Emma. Hi, Nkiruka, Abigail. We're all looking pretty. Hi, hi, hi. So at count of maybe three, we're all going to say cheese. And let's say cheese.
Cheers.
Where is Ange? I'm not seeing Ange. Ange, are you here? Oh, I think she's gone off. But yes, let's do another one. Let's say cheese. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Ellie, once again. And again, I would love to see all of us bloom and one day come back as mentors to feed into the mentors community. So for now, I say bye.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you, Ellie.